Hey everybody, my name is Axel Villamil. Welcome to 24 Shades of Blue. We have Sergeant Brett Moore of Toronto Police Services here from the Traffic Services. So Brett, let us know all about it. How are you doing?
Excellent. You know what? Anytime I get to talk about traffic, it's a good day. So I'm stoked. It's good.
It's crazy because I'm on the road
Yeah.
and I was just like, and before we spoke, I'm like, is it just me? Or is just driving gotten worse because of COVID? And I'm not sure. And I want to ask you that. What's going on?
Yeah.
Is there trends associated with COVID?
Yeah, you know what? I can tell you. You know what? It starts off with the unit that I'm in. A few months ago, the chief started a brand new unit called the Vision Zero Enforcement Team. So it's myself, two sergeants, and 16 constables, and that's we've got it's an amazing job for traffic officers. We don't have to do radio calls. We don't investigate collisions. We don't do we've got one mandate. It's to enforce the Highway Traffic Act and look for drivers that are causing the most. Probably what you're seeing, the most sort of damage and taking the most risks on our road. So we've got a great job, but definitely with COVID, we're seeing some changes for sure around, I don't know, around speed for sure. We're seeing a lot more people taking risks, open roads. We know that things have changed a lot. So it's, there's lots to unpack there when it comes to what's going on our roads right now for sure.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think it's just, it's the opportunity of the open road. Everybody sees an empty highway. Everybody understands that there's an opportunity of less people on the road. So, you have your car enthusiasts who love to, speed and do their thing and just go at it. So are you seeing, I guess, a decrease in actual traffic fatalities because of COVID since less people are out, or is it the opposite or maybe the same?
Yeah, no, I'd say just about everything is slowed down when it comes to in terms of traffic volume. The city's got countless number of articles that have come out there. You can see half like your commute, just look at your commuting time. If you're still driving to work, it's completely sped things up. But with that open space, definitely we're seeing a lot more drivers take those, just get on the gas, take unnecessary chances on the streets. But all of that compounds problems when it comes to faster speed you go. Typically, it means the higher the impact if there's a collision, more people get injured, those kinds of stuff. So definitely. It's causing some grief in that regards. To throw a stat at it, I think I read in our communications folks said that we saw a 222% increase in stunt drivers since COVID.
Wow.
A lot. So, wow. I mean, it's just one of those, it's just all risks that we see. And it's the timing of our unit that's out there now. It's the one thing that we're looking for. So we've got marked police cars, but one of the things that's really cool about this unit is they've given us the right equipment. We've got unmarked sort of pickup trucks, vehicles that you wouldn't expect to see driving around. So it's amazing when people don't see the police, some of the things, their true colors come out. So
for sure.
We've got a couple of interesting things that we've seen since we started.
Those unmarked trucks, I saw one come to life one time and it blew my mind. I guess I was just driving. It was actually up in KW and I definitely saw a guy just speed past me, and then out of nowhere, it's like a transformer just turned into a police car. And I was like, wow, that's it. You know what? And I think that I'm glad you have the right equipment because you really need that in order to catch these people.
Sure, it puts us a couple of things for the speed. You see those drivers in their true colors, sort of lane changes, the speeds that they've go, but also we see the distracted drivers, right? So Absolutely. People are sort of would normally, sort of keep the phone low. They're a lot more free and a little sort of unassuming when they don't expect it. But yeah, we've got countless comments of people just even walking by, sort of giving us the thumbs up when they see us out there because they've never seen a vehicle like that in Toronto. For sure, enforcing the Highway Traffic Act. But the drivers, they just almost see like the deflation, like they're like, the head goes down. They know they got caught when they're on their phone or whatever they're doing. So it's a neat thing to. So it's definitely gives us the advantage.
It's just like in school, right? It's like in or you look at the cruiser as the lifeguard. You're running, and then you see them and you start to slow down because you're like, hold on, we're gonna slow down a bit. But absolutely, I was actually downtown and I think I saw the opposite where it was a beat up minivan and it was green. It was like the 90s like a caravan. And I looked inside. I'm like, oh, there's an officer. He's undercover, or he's in a undercover vehicle. So it was very interesting to see that. So I'm glad that's happening because I get worried. I'm from Cambridge, so I see a lot more, I guess, crazy speeding and racing happening around on the west end of Ontario. So how are you dealing with now things are getting warmer? Are you seeing a lot of more car meets happening, and I guess more things in terms of crimes happening that way with traffic?
Absolutely. So I think we just saw it last weekend where we saw so there's an active investigation happening out in Scarborough where a group of over 100 people got together out in the east end Scarborough, McNichol Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Gasoline, I'd never seen that before, sort of lit up the road with gas, started doing burnout. So yeah.
Wow.
So that's an active investigation now. That's on social media. The news is covering it. We're seeing it. And you're right. This is the typical time of the year that you start to see people with sort of summer cars, dust them off, get them out. And there's two types of people, right? Folks that are genuinely car enthusiasts that go to the parking lots, the show and shines. Those are amazing. Those are, those are community events that we support. But it's when you see that other element to take, so when the sun goes down, things like that, you see that takeover mentality.
Yeah.
And that's where there's not just zero tolerance from the police, but community members. When you speak to the people that run these car events, they want no part of that kind of business either. So it's something that's actively being looked at, that particular one. But it's not just a Toronto problem. We're actively, we work with the OPP, our partners in, York Region, York, all around us.
Yeah.
To share information, share resources to work to try to. I'm not think it'd be naive to say you're going to stop anybody from 100%, but there needs to be a very clear message to drivers that sort of engage in that behavior, that it's something that's on our mind. It's zero tolerance, and we're going to be out all summer watching for those kinds of behaviors.
Well, I want to give you a bit of a curveball question because we're talking about car meets. We're talking about these stats that you're letting us know. I've always wondered, whenever there's a release of like a Fast and Furious or one of these, racing movies, is there ever always, what's the stat on the increase of, speeding that's happening? Are people very inspired and start to like try to mimic what's happening?
For sure. You know what? I would say, I don't know if I have a stat for that, to be honest with you, but I can definitely, I don't know if there is one. I'm sure there is something out there, but no doubt about it. There's this element of copycat that you want to, the cars come out, the same cars or similar cars in the movies that are in some of the maneuvers, like the drifting, the burnouts, things like that. You're seeing folks sort of copy what they're seeing. And I don't know, it's just one of those things. It's such a reckless thing and selfish thing to do.
Of course.
On our roads. I mean, literally one little thing goes wrong. And it's not just that you take out somebody or have a crash with another vehicle or an innocent, but look at all the crowds of people that are out there, videoing it, taking pictures, whatever. One thing goes wrong, man, and it's catastrophe. And so those are the things that we worry about. It's obviously not on the minds of the folks that are doing it, but definitely there's a copycat mentality. I can't say if what's the next Fast and Furious number 8 coming out or something. If it when it does, we'll see. But might be something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, let me know if you get that stat. I was always wondering that because I have car enthusiast friends, and it's funny, they're like complete opposite. They're more of the show and shine type of thing. And I've asked them because I was doing a video shoot. I'm like, hey, anybody have car to do donuts? We're gonna clear everything, with the private property, et cetera, and let you guys know. And he goes, I'll be honest with you, man. None of my friends want to wreck their rims or burn their tires.
So much. It's expensive hobby to get into, right? So no, definitely, we're seeing it as well. The responsible folks that are putting these together, like they'll put right on their social media posts, right? Sort of respect the lot. Yeah. All those things. They come out and they're out in front. We've been out a couple of years ago. Myself, I was directly involved in sort of getting involved and meeting these folks that are organizing it, and every single one, it blew me away. I thought you were going to get some folks that are about sort of the burnout thing. Yeah. None of them. It blew me away. It was actually so taught me a lesson there that there's a huge element of people that just want to do it right, and it's the opposite side, and they're that's part of what we ask them to do, and when after these events and these kinds of instances that happen. That we need help from the public to come back and say, hey, if you see something, something, say something. So there's a bit of cooperation that we're looking for.
Those individuals who like to burn out and like do those crazy events and things like that, they just make the real car enthusiasts look bad. In a sense, when they soup up their cars and it's like, it's beautiful. And then you don't want that stereotype of, oh, this car is just going to be reckless in my neighborhood, or this person's going to be reckless because their car's, souped up in whatever way or form. So I've noticed that too. So I'm glad that you've experienced that. You're like pretty much the Fast and Furious next sequel that's happening. So let me know how The Rock is.
For sure.
So I guess one thing, we're talking about the cars in terms of loving it and working with it, but there's also the other ugly side of traffic, which is the road ragers. And I mean, there's tons of new movies that have came out about road rage. And I just want to know, what is the psychology behind road rage that you see? You know, where has it gone too far in some of the stories that you've heard as well or experienced?
You know what? It's yeah, for sure. I think it's one of those things that whether you're a driver, somebody who walks, cyclists, they've all had that instant, that experience where, you know, people lost their cool, right? And I've personally seen it in all the officers that that do traffic for as their main role for the police have seen the same thing, where you've caught somebody, you've stopped them, you saw the incident happening, you throw the lights on, and then everybody just calms down. And then when you get out and you talk to them, they're, for the most part, they're normal people. But they're all livid. They're on, they're
heated,
they're upset.
like crazy.
Them, how do we get there? And it's typically the response is, well, they cut me off. They did they brake checked me. They did this, they did that. And it's really at the end of it, and you're going to say, well, and you did all of this because somebody did something so minor that just got you mad. And I think it just, before COVID, I guess it might be something along just society, right? People are sort of just run ragged, busy, last minute, they're late, and they just lose their cool. And when you stop and have a conversation and frame it a different way, and there's really no good excuse. And it's typically, that's when you give them the ticket and say, you can tell your story, whatever excuse, to the judge, and see if you can convince them. It's one of those things. I don't see any good excuse. We see lots of them on the real outrageous ones make the news. But for those 1 and 2 type things that we see on the news and it gets to the public realm, there's thousands that happen every single day. And that's what's cool about traffic. Every single person, whether you're a driver, you take transit, you cycle, you walk, whatever, you've got a connection to some of the challenges that are happening. Unlike other types of crimes, like thankfully guns and gangs and things like that, the average person has no idea, no experience. But when it comes to traffic crimes, right, everybody has a story, everybody has something to say, right? And that's why people get so passionate around traffic safety and the different things that go on, that makes this job so amazing. It's so cool to relate to people and be able to do stuff about it, right?
Bro, you ready for my traffic story? It's probably the most Canadian one I've ever witnessed in my entire life. So I'm driving, it's late at night, 401 West. There's a traffic jam. Like, why is this? What's happening right now? It's just so slow. And I'm slowly going by, but I see 2 blobs on my left, and I'm trying my best not to rubberneck. I'm working hard, but what did I see? 2 guys out of their cars going at it with hockey sticks. The most Canadian thing I've ever seen. And I'm like, first off, you had the hockey sticks in your car, but they were just going at it because it was a crazy amount of road rage. And I think as I tell the story now, I was laughing because I was like, wow, this is it. What can people do who do have road rage? What would you advise them to do when they are caught in that situation to prevent, another hockey stick fight?
Yeah, you know what? It comes down to some just it's about self-awareness. And I know, and it's easy to say, right? In that moment, it's probably, you're just losing your cool. But it's if you're the victim of it, don't stay in your car, right? Call 911, get some help there, right? And typically what we'll see is that will, when people know that the police have been called, that they're being called out, or you sort of break the whatever, sort of got the person so mad in the first place. Yeah. Typically folks will sort of unwind a bit, sort of check themselves, and it'll break that. But don't engage. I'd say stay in the car. Again, make the phone call, take a picture, do something like that. Because if you're just an unassuming person that has, that is minding their business and this is happening to you, it's likely probably one of the most scariest things that's occurred to you probably in your lifetime or in a long time. Yeah. And, it's just about, especially when you're on our open roads, like people are wandering around highways at the side, like give me a break, right? Like anything could happen. Yeah. To your point of, typically when drivers, we drive where we look. Our eyes are really where we go, right? It's why when we do driver training, it's all about eye lead and where you're going. Yeah. So if people are literally watching you on the highway, I guarantee you they're turning towards and weaving in that direction. So who knows what happens? Yeah, so, I remember learning that. Luckily, in the city in Toronto, we do have the Don Valley Parkway and the Gardner Expressway, but a lot of those big 400 series highways we leave to our OPP friends, and I guarantee you see some crazy stuff for sure like that on the open roads.
Oh, absolutely. And correct me if I'm wrong. I remember, I think during there was a factoid out there, and this could be false, just heads up everybody. everybody, but they said that the Canadian highways, the 401 was one of the most, like, I guess, busiest highways slash, you know, and it's on a travel warning for whenever you go there. They're like, careful of the 401 because it's that busy.
Absolutely. The 401 is one of the busiest and the most traveled highways in North America. No doubt about it.
Absolutely.
And we've got, there's a stat to, I don't know, maybe be proud of or be a bit scared about it. We'll see. But that's, and they constantly seem to be fixing it, widening it. The 401 is a major artery for sure.
I've never been on a road that has always had a perpetual construction all the time.
I think that's
especially when you get to Montreal. So that's a different story. Oh, and it's so interesting because, you know, you see the different types of driving on province, like based off of province. Like I can tell when I'm in Ontario right away. I can tell when I'm in Quebec right away. And
cool.
So it's interesting that, you know, when we follow those laws and go with it, that there's a bit of a home feel to it. You know, I've driven in Costa Rica and I was like, that's a different case than driving in the roads down here, and there's no laws. But I know there's a new thing happening with the city, which is the, you know, automated speed enforcement, and I know that's something with the city. So could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it is. It's part of Vision Zero. It's part of it's one of the things that were brought in a couple of years ago, and it really just got kicked off. Where the city is, some people are going to call it photo radar, but really what it is, it's that type of technology. But they're installing photo radar type devices in school zones and community safety zones. So two big areas that, you know, that if you're going to put them, that's the place to put them for sure. Where kids, families, all kinds of folks are using those neighborhood streets. And basically it's to check behavior, to get drivers to send that message down that you got to slow down, because the police are, you know, we obviously do traffic enforcement. We cannot be there all the time, no doubt about it. And in those identified areas that the city wants them to go, some of the numbers that are out there, 20,000 tickets a month. It's incredible. Some of them, and it's the repeat offenders that you're hearing about through the city in their news releases, talking about, well, obviously it's the same. The license plates are getting dinged every month, and it just shows you that a lot of it is just daily bad driving habits that we all get into. And that's one of the biggest things that we see in traffic services and the Vision Zero enforcement team that I'm part of. We're seeing now, we've been running since October, and we're already seeing when we stop a driver for an offense, typically speeding, that we're now getting repeat offenders, repeat customers coming through, stopped by the same officers.
Oh, see, that's horrible.
And so it's just, it just shows you that it's not, and typically I'll just sort of, they're normal people, they're not criminals or anything like that. Just, they've got bad habits, and those bad habits are causing havoc on our roads. And that's our job to check that behavior and to get people to, I see it this way. People typically don't change because you tell them to. Yeah. Some people change because they get a sharp sting of a ticket, but that's enough of a message. But they do it because we want people to think differently about the behavior, the risks, the speeds, those kinds of things on our roads. And anyways, that's part of our job through social media, through sort of media events and whatnot, to get people to just really change those daily bad habits that we all have.
Absolutely. I think you're right. You know, you hit that on the head of the nail there. Because for me, at least in my experience, I was, you know, I had a problem. I ran a stop sign once, and you know, I got pulled over, and never again did I ever do a rolling stop ever once in my entire life. And you know, I was like tired. I was gonna make up excuses, but I'm like, you know what? I owned it. I said, you know, I messed up. You know, I broke the law here, and that ticket, which was very expensive, as well as the demerit that you get with that, especially as I was a newer driver, really kicked me, you know, in the pants. And I was like, okay, you know, let's just make sure we're safe. But it's also like being aware too. So I think a lot of people take it as like, you know, this sucks, you know, I got this. But it's more like, think of it as a learning lesson here, where you're understanding, you know, what you shouldn't be doing. And obviously driver's training helps you out there, but sometimes you need that little help from the law to be like, hey, slow down, you know, you're going to get there. And I've had that in, like, my parents are great. They always say, you know, don't speed to get to that place. It's okay to be late. And I think a lot of people don't realize that we need to slow down sometimes, or else, you know, horrible, you know, fatalities can happen, which is why, you know, schools and community areas are perfect for these automated speed enforcement tools.
Yeah, it's exactly, and that's what they are. They're tools. It's not, and so they gather a lot of information. They issue tickets, those kinds of things, and we have red light camera systems that are in the city that as well to automate that process, knowing that police can't be everywhere.
Exactly.
And so it is a tool. It's a tool in the toolbox, if you will, in terms of road safety. Our team, the VZET team, we call it for short, is another tool that we've got. But we also, I would say this, we can't ticket our way to safer roads, right? It's something that we're going to do, but we know that if we can connect with people to think a little differently about that daily bad habit, I'm a broken record on that. We've got instances where we've issued a ticket, because when we typically send our officers out as part of my team, we'll sort of flood a division, an area of the city, and 4 or 5 officers will be out there doing their thing on the different roads. And what's not cool, but it allows us, we've had instances, several now, where one officer will issue somebody a ticket for speeding, and then literally another cop in the team will be down a few blocks away and got the same driver speeding again, 20 minutes apart, 15 minutes apart in time. And so literally that driver's gotten 2 tickets in 15, 20 minutes by 2 members of the team. And if that's not a message to say you've got a problem with speeding or whatever the thing might be, it's those weird stories that people, it's important that we try to get out to drivers to say, come on, we're watching. The public has no appetite for this. And all of those behaviors that you see, we call it the big 4: speed, distraction, aggressive, and impaired driving. It's not us saying that those are our big problems on the streets. That's where research, MTO, CAA, Traffic Injury Research Foundation, all those big research institutes around road safety, they know and tell us, you control those things, you make roads safer, right? And so that's why there's a big emphasis. The number one thing they know about Vision Zero talks about speeding. Control the speed, lower the speeds, you reduce the collisions, but most importantly, the severity of injury, right? So those are some of the things that we're trying to get
for
people
sure
thinking differently about.
And it'll make us all feel better, I think, as a community in general. It's just, we all take the roads, how we travel. These are the things that need to be focused on, when sometimes we think it might be just, in the back of our mind, but we're glad that, Vision Zero is addressing all these things. So I wanted to ask you, actually, what are you most proud of so far with, your work in traffic services? Is there anything you felt that you and, your team that you work with have done something that you really feel has made a great impact?
Well, Vision Zero really came because the public, it goes back, it started like in 2016, 2017. And we were literally you mentioned fatal collisions at the beginning of this. That we were literally in Toronto, there was, between 60 and the high 70s in terms of numbers of people being killed on our roads. And when you look at those people, right, every one of those numbers is a person. But where we're looking at it is that like 2/3, I'm going to throw just a standard number out just to round it off, but 2/3 of the people that were being fatally killed or, involved in collisions were pedestrians, cyclists, vulnerable road users, right? And so they basically, that was the big impetus to get Vision Zero going. The community was saying, enough, there's too much. We need something more than what we've been doing. And that's how it was created. And it's not something that Toronto created. It was something that has been around for decades in different countries around the world. And it's something that I called sort of R&D, rip off and duplicate, because it's a great idea. It's a great philosophy and a great program that creates that, I guess, sort of cast vision of a different way of doing business when it comes to road safety in the city. So that was one of the big things that got sort of things moving in that direction. When your traffic fatality numbers rivaled homicides, it really freaked people out. And because it goes back to what I said before, where the average person doesn't connect with homicides, murders, drugs, things like that, thankfully. But every person, we go to community events all the time, and the conversation might start about one thing, but somebody always puts their hand up and asks about stop signs or speeding drivers in their neighborhood, things that they had bad experiences, and they want to know, hey, what are the police doing about it? And Vision Zero is our strategy. It's what we're working on. But it's like, I don't know, how do you say it? It's a philosophy, right? I mean, the idea is that we're going to do things collectively with the city, fixing roads, changing design, changing our focus, right? All with the idea of getting down those numbers, reducing the numbers of collisions that hurt people. I'll take double the number of crashes in the city. If they're just little fender benders,
Sure.
rubs and scrubs in parking lot, that's cool,
Mhm.
right? Those things are going to happen.
Of course.
Vision Zero wants to eliminate the crashes that hurt people.
Absolutely.
And that's and those are all the things that we're working with the city, other partners, communities, to make happen, right?
Yeah.
So that's it. It took me a while when we first talked about Vision Zero. I was like, what is this? I had to wrap my head around it.
Exactly.
But that's really it in a nutshell. And sort of it casts vision to do things differently, to make roads safer, which we know in many cases before COVID, lots of families were being victimized unnecessarily, and we're working hard. Huge priority for us in the city and communities to wrestle this down and get those numbers way lower.
It means a lot to me because my dad, when I first started driving, you know what he said to me? He goes, we got in the car and he goes, Axel, what are you in right now? I'm like, I'm in a car. I'm like, what a dumb question. And he goes, no, you're in I don't know how many tons a car would be average.
Yeah.
What is it? 3 tons?
2 tons.
A 2-ton piece of metal that can go, over 200 kilometers an hour. He's like, that's what you're in. And he's like, remember that, because yes, it can get you to point A to point B, but it can also, unfortunately end somebody's lives, in that case. So it's something we all have to be mindful about. I'm glad Vision Zero is there to really, enforce that and make sure that none of that happens.
What it sounds like your dad was trying to say is that people, a lot of this, think, oh, it's an accident, right?
Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But those, accidents don't happen, right? It's not an accident, right? So, it's a crash or a collision. We say it's part of getting people to think differently. Even just the language around
little
accidents,
word there.
right? Mm-hmm. Just twist it a bit. It's not an accident, right? No. Babies have accidents, right?
Yeah.
Not adults driving 2-ton machines down our highways.
Exactly.
Right? You did something that caused that crash that could have been prevented.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's really when you sort of distill it down, that's the kind of language we're trying to use to connect with people, to get them to go, well, yeah, you're right. It is a 2-ton machine. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this or that, or put my phone down, or wear my seatbelt, or slow down, right? So it's those conversations that are so hard, right? Because you start off with I've got 2 kids that are learning to drive right now. They're going through the graduated licensing stages, right?
Nice.
And we have those conversations. It's so critical, right? To say, right? Because you're bulletproof, right? As a young person, you're running around, nothing's going to happen. This is great.
You feel free,
right? The world's
when you're
open
in the
to me
car.
now.
Exactly.
I got freedom, right? So but that freedom comes with responsibility, and that's the key. What sounds like your dad was talking to you about. And we ask people all the time, if you hand the keys over to your kid, you got to let them go and give them the rope and, let them experience things, but you got to set some boundaries and have those tough conversations with young drivers. But that's that one side. Now that's, then you've got the other side of the drivers that have been driving forever, haven't had a course since they were 16. Yeah. And they're thinking, well, it's not my bad driving, it's somebody else's.
Exactly.
But when you see it and you talk to them, it's like, no, man, it was your bad driving. Yeah. Look at you. Mm-hmm. And we see it now where you pull drivers over and you ask them, that's a standard sort of question when you own, license, ownership, insurance, all that stuff, right? They don't want to see a cop, but hey, I'm involved, we're doing it.
It's your job.
But I asked the question is, how's your driving record? Have you had anything recently? Yeah. And somebody's like, no, everything's good. You go back in and you run them on the system, and it's like, speeding, 3 years ago speeding, 2 years ago speeding, and you see that habit again of those daily bad habits. You come back to them and go, here's your ticket. It is your bad driving, and it's over time, and it just seems that people think it's not them. But look at those your driving abstract. 1 and 2 tickets is the beginning of a habit. 3, 4, 5 over a period of time, right? Yeah. Is now confirmation. You've got a problem with speed, because those are the only times that you were caught.
Exactly.
Right? Look at all the other times that you didn't get caught, right?
Exactly. So yeah, we all got to check ourselves. We all got to really be aware. And again, back to your point about the younger drivers, just lay a standard. Really let them know what they're doing. So hey, Brett, thank you so much for your time here. Is there any last words you want to say to the drivers out there? To anybody you want to shout out on your team?
Yes, there's definitely, I would say this. So for folks watching this, again, Vision Zero, the enforcement team, all volunteer officers, right? They all stood up, put their hand up and said, I want to be part of this thing, which is great. But for every one of us, right, there's dozens and dozens of other officers in the local communities that work on road safety and vision 02, right? So it's important that we've got that. I sort of said at the beginning of the interview, right, that hey, we've got an amazing job. If you're a traffic cop and you like this kind of business, there's no better, right? We've got a very clear, strict mandate. Go out, high enforcement. The drivers that cause the most damage on our roads, they've given us the all the cool tools and things to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But a shout out to the average cop that's out there that does the day in and day out doing the road safety thing, because it's not their full-time gig. They've got a lot of other things to do, and when they have the time, know that they're out there looking at things as well. And again, I guess maybe I'll just round it off and just say, listen, if you're one of those drivers that's, got a ticket, or you've had a few close calls, or you hear people honking you or giving, all kinds of stuff, just have that reality check and think, can I do something differently? Right. I say the speed limit challenge. I don't know if you drive, but try doing 40, set the cruise at the speed limit. Right. Okay. And tell me if we don't have as a society have a problem with speeding. If you're on a 50 road and you lock it in at 50, good luck. You're going to get honked, passed, blown the doors off you, because people are going to go by you.
Yeah.
And it's just, we have a problem with speeding on our streets. And that's one of the big things that our team and all the officers, that contribute to road safety are working on every day.
Amazing. Brett Moore, everybody, 24 Shades of Blue. I'm Axel Villamil, and we're out.